Yo, 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 what's up? What's really good? It's your boy Brandon Bravon Towns, and we're going to do a Sports Plus Life Talking ish today, strictly NBA playoff edition. Y'all know, y'all heard the podcast yesterday. I had the fun bunch on there, Sean and David, but I wanted to talk about these playoffs in further detail. And my man Tony, it's been a minute since you've been on the show, but he loves basketball the way I love basketball. Or at least once upon a time, the way we used to love basketball. What up, bro?
Yo, what's going on?
I can't call it. So, what's on your mind? What is on your mind? What do you think of these playoffs, and what is on your mind?
I don't think nothing about these playoffs. I don't think nothing about these playoffs. Don't care nothing about these playoffs. This is not basketball. This is not basketball. The whole play-in concept, the whole, when you got a team deciding, do we want to be in the playoffs or do we want to just tank? And literally, it comes down to the last couple games of the season, and franchises are trying to decide this.
So you're talking about the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, it's one. It was tanking was always viewed a certain way anyway, unless you literally are one of the bottom. If you're one of the bottom tier teams, then yeah, you're expected to tank to get better. But when you have teams that are expected to be playoff teams tanking, you understand? It's and that they have the latitude to be able to tank because of the expanded playoff picture. It's just not good for the brand. It's not good for the brand. And then as I said before we connected, you got superstars sitting here talking about 82 games as if we ain't got to play 82 games because we that good or we that whatever. Yeah, you that soft. You literally are admitting how soft you are, and you want to be the greatest of all time. I reference Nikola Vucevic. Why? Because Nikola Vucevic played 82 games. And literally, that was a milestone for him. He said it openly. That was a milestone to play all 82 games. That tells you what kind of league we're watching right now.
And honestly, this is why I find myself rooting for the New York Knicks a lot, because all of their players play. Now, Julius Randle had played every single game until he rolled his ankle. They had clinched the playoff spot, and they were locked into their seat, so I can understand him missing the last 5 games. But you're right. The fact that the fact that 82 games now is seen as this milestone. I don't know if you saw what the new CBA agreement was as far as NBA awards go.
No, I did not.
I brought this up yesterday that now there's a rule that in order for players to be eligible to win awards such as MVP, Sixth Man of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, yada yada, that they have to play at least 65 games. So
there was some pushback on that, I'm sure.
It was some pushback. Me personally, I think it should have been 70. But what that basically said to me was, okay, so pretty much Giannis and Jokic are going to be head of the MVP class for years to come.
I love it because the marvelous DeRozan said that early in the season. He said that's what he felt. It should be been more games to be, and this is a dude that's not even running for the MVP. They just asked him the question. And he was honest. Yeah, I mean, we get paid to play ball. I mean, durability is a thing. Showing up every night, you say, I show up every night to play. Well, how you showing up every night? You only play 50 games.
Exactly.
Why do these dudes have value and they can't even play? They can't even put together 40 games. Why does Zion Williamson have value?
I was just about to mention him. And I said this about him yesterday. I would not have signed him to that deal if I was a Pelicans. I understand they want a star for their city, and they lost Anthony Davis. But do you know, in his entire career, Zion Williamson has only played 90 games, and he's been in the NBA since 2019. He's played 90 games his entire career, and that's ridiculous. And I said this before the draft, before he got drafted. I said, if he doesn't get his ass in shape, by the time he's 28 years old, he's going to be Zach Randolph. And that's not a knock on Zach Randolph because his style of brand worked for him. He was never a high flyer. But for Zion Williamson, he's going to turn into Zach Randolph. So I hope he's working on his jumper because he's going to end up being a back-to-the-basket player within the next 4 years because he doesn't stay in shape. He doesn't stay healthy. He's not durable. He's not reliable. And I've heard all season what a great team the Pelicans could be if Zion. It's always if Zion. Zion don't ever show up to play.
But you know what, though? I got to chime in on the Zach Randolph thing. You threw that in there. Thing about that is, if you can get a player that Zach Randolph on steroids that can also pass, you may bring a certain style back to the NBA.
No, exactly.
Because the Zach Randolph under that basket was a lot like Barkley. Once he get in deep, he gonna score.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that as a knock on Zach Randolph. I'm just, look, they had similar body types, but they play a totally different game. The reason why these players are now chiming in for more games, for lesser games than ever before, is because of the style of basketball has completely changed. It used to be inside out, now it's outside in. You're running all over the court because everybody's trying to shoot threes, and it's messing with ligaments, muscle pulls, and all that other stuff. Too fucking bad. You know what? Throw the ball back into the post. That's what I loved about. I know you don't pay attention to college basketball, but that's what I loved about UConn, because they just won the national championship. Their style of play was picture perfect. They worked inside out. They weren't jacking up a bunch of threes. If a team made a run on them by shooting a bunch of threes, they weren't trying to trade threes with them. They dumped it down low. They had 3 men, 6'10" or better. They dumped it down low, tried to get buckets in the paint. If not, you find the open man, and it wasn't always for a 3 mid-range jumper. And they dominated everybody in the entire tournament. They dominated. And they weren't even a number 1 seed. But that's the issue. If you start, if players start getting back into the post, then it's not much strain on your body, because, come on, Tony, the NBA we grew up watching, you never heard anybody complaining about a back-to-back. I don't give a fuck if you was in the league for 5 years or for 15 years. If you had a back-to-back, you played it.
I'm glad you said that, because that was the other thing I was going to bring up. How you going to consider yourself the GOAT but complain you had to play a back-to-back? That was LeBronica talking about having to play
Utah and then the Clippers.
It was us and was it us and the Clippers or somebody else?
No, it was Utah and then the Clippers the next night.
Utah and then the Clippers.
Yeah, last week.
About that shows how soft this league is. You complaining about a back-to-back?
The only reason why, and I don't disagree with you, the only reason why I would give him a bit of leeway is because of all the years that he's played.
Nobody want to hear that, man.
I'm just that, but that's just because of his age and the amount of time. That's just me.
The same kind of miles. Your other boy had them same kind of miles.
Who?
And would play sometimes 3 games in 4 nights.
Who? Kobe?
Would play 3 games in 4 nights.
Kobe?
Yes.
Well, of course, man. But look, Kobe's part of that, the rarest of rare breed.
Kobe's not an exception to the rule.
He's the rarest of rare breed.
Part of the era where he played in both kind of eras, but he was not an exception to the rule. It was a lot of dudes not named Kobe Bryant that would play 3 games in 4 nights.
Yeah, I mean, the mentality of the players were different. They were totally different. Now, look, we done got off to this talking ish, ranting and raving about the things we feel the exact same way about. I think today's modern NBA player is
you're right about the style of play and things like that, because I got another name for you. We talking about Zach. I got another name for you. Game effective as hell, but he played true old man basketball. Al Jefferson.
Yeah, yes. Al Jefferson, yes. And you know who Millsap used to play like him too until he started jacking up threes.
What's his name coming out? The center. He just didn't work out in the NBA. He might Okafor.
Emeka Okafor?
Right. Was it Okafor? No, it wasn't Okafor. It was he's from Chicago, so I can't think of his name.
Did he play for you? Were you talking about Hasheem Thabeet?
No, hell no.
Okay.
This guy was a top 5 pick, and he went around. He was with the Sixers.
Oh no, you're right. Jaleel Okafor, not Emeka Okafor, but Jaleel Okafor. Yeah.
Emeka was the power forward. This is Jaleel Okafor.
You're right. Yeah, he came out of Duke, and yes, he did play with you guys in Philly. Yeah.
Because he didn't have, he didn't have the it factor to make it translate. He had the skill set in college, but in the NBA, he just looked lost.
Yeah, I remember when because he got drafted in the 2015 draft. I remember I wanted the Lakers to get him so bad because his game was similar to Tim Duncan. The 1 year he played at Duke, he reminded me of Tim Duncan, and we ended up drafting D'Angelo Russell, and I was so pissed. I mean, of course, now I'm glad they brought D'Angelo Russell back. But at the time, yeah, I was like, this is a true big man. But as that was around the time that the game was truly becoming 3-point centric because the Warriors had taken off. And it's not their fault. That was just their style of play. It's just everybody wanted to copycat off of that. I mean, the Warriors have been the only team where that's worked to championships. That has brought championships. Like Boston tried it last year. Didn't work. In Boston, this is why I don't think Boston, this is why I can't pick them to get to the finals or win the championship, because they are so three dependent. And if it's not falling, that's what happened to them in the finals last year against Golden State. When them threes stopped falling, that was a wrap. That was an absolute wrap.
Beyond the Golden State Warriors, man, the last NBA team that won titles, and not titles, not just one, just playing their game and forced everybody to play their game was the Spurs.
Yeah.
That's it. You could bring whatever kind of lineup you're going to bring against the Spurs, but ultimately you're going to play Spurs basketball.
Yeah.
Because they're going to slow it down. They're going to stay playing their style. That's it.
The only finals that they played in where they did not play that style completely was the one that they beat 2014 when they beat Miami. But they just shot Miami out of the gym every game. That was the one where Patty Mills and Danny Green and Ginobili, they was just chucking threes up from everywhere, and them bitches was falling. That's the only. But all of them other times the Spurs, yeah, you're gonna play a half court game. You're gonna end up playing a half court game. And as far as the Dallas Mavericks goes, when you're talking about tanking, I don't blame that shit on Kyrie the way everybody else is trying to do. I do not blame that on Kyrie. Kyrie did what he was supposed to do when he got traded. Luka, I said this yesterday. I used to say this about James Harden, and I'm going to say this about Luka. If Luka's your number one option, you're not winning a title. Period. Point blank.
You think Luka's ball hoggedness is that bad?
Yep. And he don't play no damn defense. He spends more time complaining to the referees than he does playing on both ends of the ball.
I submit if somebody wants to swing for the fences, they would have a legitimate. I mean, they're a contender anyway, based on the nature of this NBA. But if the Sixers really want to swing for the fences, you get up whatever you can get up asset wise, and not name Embiid and move it for Luka. Luka could be the number one option in that scenario and may win a championship.
Now, if you if you put Luka with Embiid, now Mark Cuban's not gonna let him go. You do understand that, right?
I understand it.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, hypothetically. Now, hypothetically, if you put Luka with Embiid, okay, all right. Now, you got something. But if Luka is your main number one option, you're not winning a title. You're not winning a title with that dude. I mean, they tried to put the blame on Kyrie Irving. Well, the Mavericks were fourth when they got Kyrie, and then they fell out of the playoffs. First of all, you traded all of your best defensive players for a guy who's an awesome, spectacular player, but does not play defense, and put him with a guy who plays defense even less in Luka. You got rid of your on-ball wing defenders to get Kyrie. What did you expect? You thought you were going to outscore everybody. You thought you were going to outscore anybody. No, Kyrie, he marches to the beat of his own drum, and he's made some questionable decisions. This Dallas shit, that's not on him. And the report just came out today that the Mavericks are certain that they will reach a long-term agreement with Kyrie. So, and if I'm Kyrie, why not? No state income taxes. You can get a max contract. Okay, because the notion of him going back to the Lakers, if you keep D'Angelo Russell, what do you need Kyrie for? If you're the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't know. They still keep trying to push that issue, though. It's not coming from the Lakers organization.
No, it's not coming from the Lakers organization. I don't think Kyrie's going anywhere. I think he's going to stay in Dallas, and they're going to have to build some defensive pieces around him and Luka. But again, if Luka's your main option, you're not winning a title. That's just the way I feel about that dude. He's a great individual player, but they need a leader on that team. That's what they're going to need. It doesn't have to be another superstar. They need somebody who can lead by example. Maybe they need to bring Patrick Beverly over to Dallas to get in some people's faces. I don't know. But speaking of which, okay, let me clarify how I feel about the play-in situation. I agree with you. I do not like it. I don't like the play-in one bit. But since they're hell-bent on doing it, I think they should do it a different way. I don't know if I've told you this before. I think that instead of, worrying about seeds 1 through 6 automatically clinching and no playing, they need to move that up to 1 through 7. The 10th seed, get rid of that in general. Get rid of that whole 10th seed thing and just do away with that. And I think the play-in scenario should just be between the 8th and the 9th seed, and only if there's a 1-game difference. Now, with this season, that scenario would come into play because the 8th and the 9th seed in the East and the West both have the exact same identical records. So that would be fine. I could see that as being necessary. But if you're a 7 seed and you can possibly miss the playoffs, and a team that finished 10th in the regular season can possibly make the playoffs over you, that's stupid. To me, that's dumb. That makes no sense whatsoever. So I think if they are hell-bent on doing a play-in game, I think they should do it like that. To me, that makes more sense. And again, it would come into play this season because the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors, 8 and 9 seed respectively, are both 41 and 41. In the West, the Timberwolves and the Pelicans are both 42 and 40. Okay, so you have that play-in. You have that play-in game, which could just last one night. You have the East game first, the West game second, and that can determine who your 8th seed is going to be. I think the 7 spot, 7 needs to be in automatically, and the 10th, forget about it. Forget about it. And I know the Bulls are a 10 seed with just a 2-game difference from 8 and 9, but like I said, I think that whole 10 spot, to me, that's just dumb. To me, that's just doing too much. But with that being said, who do you have winning tonight between the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks? That's the 7-8 matchup.
That's a rough one. It's a rough one, but I think Atlanta.
It wouldn't surprise me if Atlanta won. To me, that's a pick'em game.
Yeah.
To me, that is a straight up pick'em game.
It's crazy to say that it really comes down to Jimmy versus Trey. I'm talking about production wise, Jimmy versus Trey. Because role players are going to role play. They're going to, the Tyler Heroes, they're going to do, they're going to role play. The peripheral people going to do what they're going to do. Bogdanovich or whoever. They're going to do what they're going to do. It comes down to does Trey have an on shooting night or off shooting night? Does Jimmy have an on shooting night or off shooting? And is he playing defense too? Makes the difference.
Reports have just come out today that the Hawks are open to trading Trae Young after the season. I don't know if you heard that either. That just came out today.
I did hear that, but until that organization says that, they don't mean that. Everybody's open to trading everybody sometimes. That's it. Well, until the organization says, somebody in the organization says we're listening to offers, then I won't believe it.
All right, well, on the west side of things, the 7-8 matchup between the Lakers and Minnesota, who do you think is going to win that game?
That's another you pick 'em. That is another you pick 'em. But I think y'all should beat them, but it's still another you pick 'em.
Yeah, I'm riding with my purple and gold tonight.
I feel like on paper, y'all should beat them. I feel like on paper, y'all should beat them.
They don't have Rudy Gobert because of that suspension. And then the other guy, Jaden McDaniel, who broke his hand punching the wall after a win. I don't get that. I don't understand why the hell they would do that. Minnesota looks like they're unraveling as a team. So we should win. You're right. We should win, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people are making it out to be. Now, as far as the 9-10, Toronto against your Chicago Bulls, who you got?
It's another you pick 'em. It's Zach LaVine and DeRozan versus Nick Nurse's defense.
Same question, Pelicans versus Thunder. Who you got? That to me is another you pick 'em. I think the
Yeah,
Pelicans
that's
actually
another you pick 'em. It comes down to the role play. I think, but honestly, I think the Pelicans are gonna win that though.
So do I. I just said that. I think the Pelicans are gonna win that one too. I actually think the Pelicans are gonna get in the playoffs. Even though right now they're a 9th seed, they're tied with Minnesota for the 8th. You see what I'm saying? Why I would just have it be an 8-9 matchup if you're hell bent on doing a playing game. This makes the most sense. Because you have a 8 seed and a 9 seed with the exact same record, a 1-game winner take all. That's it. You don't need the 10th seed or the fucking 7th seed playing in any kind of a playing game. I actually think the Pelicans are going to get in the playoffs. And I think they would be a difficult matchup for Denver. I have not been impressed by Denver the last month of the season, even though they're the number 1 seed in the West.
I'm curious about the Thunder, about something. What are they trying to do? I don't quite understand, because you have a war chest. I mean, they got a lot that they could. There are a lot of things, pieces that they can trade if they wanted to try to do something. To bolster that roster with Shea Gilgeous, but it doesn't seem like they just want to play the long game with it and just be a fringe, a up and coming young team forever. I guess is because they're not really. They're improving incrementally by drafting players, so they got all these premium picks. But by the time you get a real roster assembled that is a true playoff team, Gilchrist's career would have been wasted.
I don't think they expected Oklahoma City to be this good, to be honest with you. I think that this season is honestly a surprise for Oklahoma City, because they had the dude that they drafted from Gonzaga, the 7'3" guy, the tall, lanky guy who got hurt playing the summer league. His name skips me now, but I know he'll be there next year. So I don't know. I don't know what Oklahoma City's gonna try and do. I think if they're gonna try to wait to get their draft pick from last year's draft going, but they have a star. I mean, SGA is a bona fide star, but other than that, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't name you 5 dudes off of that team. To be honest with you, but they're in a play-in situation. I don't think they're going to win, but I think this has been an overachieving year for Oklahoma City. And that dude, who's their general manager? He's been there forever. He's been there forever because he's the one who got KD, Russ, James Harden, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Victor Oladipo. He seems to know what he's doing. He just don't have a championship to show for it. So I don't know. So what in the Eastern Conference is the most intriguing matchup to you in the playoffs?
In the East.
In the East. Okay, let's assume that Miami wins tonight and they would be matched up against Boston. And that's though, because I don't know who's going to end up coming up being the 8th seed. I really don't know in the East. They really are you pick'ems as far as I'm concerned. But the other matchups are Philly versus Brooklyn and Cleveland versus New York.
You'd have to. Honestly, Philly, Brooklyn.
You really? That's okay. Okay.
Philly, Brooklyn, and the only reason why I say that is because they play different styles. Brooklyn is going to try to run. That is not advantageous to Philly. It's just not. And if with that style you can kind of neutralize Embiid to some level, because Harden is nothing.
Wow. Damn.
Nothing, man. You know it. Come on now. He's nothing. So after that, it's just, Maxey and dudes like that. I think Brooklyn, because of depth and because of youth, is the thing with them. If they can prolong that series, they become dangerous to Philly. New York and Cleveland. Cleveland should just Cleveland should smack them.
I see that. To me, that's the most intriguing series to me, New York and Cleveland. But I hear what you're saying about Brooklyn. I had to give Brooklyn a shout out yesterday because I thought they were gonna fall to play in status once they got rid of KD and Kyrie. They have a bunch of complimentary players, but Mikal Bridges has become a star since coming over there. Everybody was talking about Cam Johnson when he was putting up 40-point games before Bridges got there. But Bridges has been that dude since he got there.
Brooklyn got 2 lineups they can run.
They do.
They got so many complimentary players that you could just mix and match. But you could take out the entire starting 5, bring in 5 off the bench, and still have a competent team.
They do. For me, it's Cleveland and New York because, Cleveland should win this series, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a 7-game series here. I said to you at the beginning of the season, if they mesh with Donovan Mitchell, they're gonna be a dangerous team. Well, they meshed. I honestly think Donovan Mitchell. I say if they had won maybe about 3 or 4 more games, Donovan Mitchell would have been in MVP talks. But the Knicks, man, to see that matchup, Donovan Mitchell against Jalen Brunson, that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be fascinating, and I think that's gonna be a knockdown, drag out fight.
Right.
And I also think if Miami does win tonight and they have to play Boston, they're not scared of Boston. They're not scared of Boston one bit. Jimmy Butler becomes Michael Jordan in the playoffs. I don't know why, but they're not scared of him. I think that's the one matchup in the first round the Celtics don't want to see, because while Boston would be favored and they should be favored, they know that early in the playoffs they would be in for a knockdown, drag out fight against Miami. I think Milwaukee's coming out the East anyway. But what about the West? What's the most intriguing first round matchup to you in the West?
Give me the rundown.
Okay. Let's assume the Lakers win. They would be the number 7 seed. They would have to play Memphis. Denver will play, well, who knows? Like I said, Minnesota. I think Denver's going to end up playing New Orleans. But Sacramento plays Golden State, and the Suns and the Clippers play each other.
You might disagree, but Sacramento, Golden State.
I don't disagree totally. Because I think that's going to be the highest scoring series by far. Golden State, if Golden State remains true to form as far as the road team they were this year, then they could be had. I don't think they will. I think Golden State will win that series, but I think that's going to be a fun series.
And the second one, you on paper you would have thought, but the Suns gonna smack the Clippers up. The Suns are gonna smack them, but on paper, just based on rosters, you
see
would have
that to me is the most intriguing. If Paul George cannot play, then I will agree with you 100%. If Paul George can, let's say Paul George can come back by game 3, and you're looking at a 1-1 series, and you somehow, some way you have a 1-1 series. I love those matchups, man. Paul George and Kawhi, Devin Booker and KD, and then Westbrook against Chris Paul. The Clippers are the deepest team in basketball, man. I think if you want to play the Suns, because KD hasn't fully gotten in the rhythm with them, I think if you want to play the Suns, if the Suns are right to be beat in the West, I think it would have to be early. I think if the Suns get out of the first round, they may mess around and end up being in the finals. And I think the Clippers with Paul George can beat them. But that's if.
I meant something that, because I was thinking the Paul George thing, but I didn't even think about something else. Y'all may be able to take Memphis with Steven Adams, just simply Steven Adams being out.
Oh, we're going to beat Memphis. That's
the crazy with just that dude because of his presence. You know what I'm saying? Both rim protection and rebounding. It makes a huge difference with that team, with Memphis.
We're going to beat Memphis. We're going to beat if we stay healthy, because you never know with Anthony Davis, we're going to beat Memphis. The thing that will worry me is that once we beat Memphis, I don't know how much gas is going to be left in the tank, because the Lakers have been in playoff mode since the All-Star break. They had to be. I mean, they were 13th in the West at the All-Star break, so they moved up 6 spots. You know, that's a lot. So I don't know. And then potentially you would have to see, I think is going to be in the second round, I think it's going to be the Lakers versus Golden State. And I can't pick against Golden State until I see somebody from the West take them out. I'll say it again. With Clay, Steph, and Draymond, when they're on the floor, nobody has defeated them in the West since 2014. I got to see it to believe it. That is a large sample size of dominance in that conference. They have dominated the West for the last 10 years. I got to see it to believe it. So who do you have coming out in the West?
Honestly, Suns.
You see Phoenix?
Yeah.
And who? I didn't ask you about the East. Who do you think's coming out the East?
Until somebody proves different, I'm going to say it's Milwaukee.
So you got a 2021 Finals rematch. I've heard a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's sad, but you know, that's the best they can do. That's kind of how I look at it. Like that's the best it's going to be, and it's tragic that is the best that's going to be, but that's the best it's going to be.
I think Milwaukee is the new version of San Antonio now.
This team sucks, bruh. NBA sucks. I honestly, I'm about to get into golf. I'd rather watch
golf. Oh my goodness.
Round or something, because this is not best. This is not the sport.
No, it's not the sport that I fell in love with. I tell you that.
And so I'm largely ambivalent. Like literally, this whole season, I've watched some games. For the most part, I feel like I can just tune into the box score. I don't even need to sit there and watch it, because it's just so watered down and so pointless. It feels like everybody, no matter who wins, now everybody's a bubble champ.
Was that a shot at the Lakers, sir?
I'm just saying. It feels like no matter who wins now, everybody is a bubble champ. They all paper champs. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
I stopped watching boxing because there was a period of time where you had a bunch of paper champs.
I get it.
It was called boxing, but it was still called boxing, though.
I get it. I think it's going to be Milwaukee versus Golden State. Logic would say Phoenix, but like I said, I have to see Golden State defeated. I have to see it to believe it. That's all I'm going to say. And they're playing well at the right time. And they're pretty healthy right now. They really don't have any injuries, any major injuries to speak of. So, yeah. I think it's going to be the finals, the battle between the last two champions, the Warriors and the Bucks. But, this isn't the NBA that I fell in love with. It's not. I think the three-point shooting has gotten ridiculous. I was talking with my uncle about this a couple of weeks ago. The way that everybody is just so three dependent is honestly kind of a turnoff, because that's why I enjoyed so much watching this NCAA tournament, because the main teams who were in the Final Four, and this wasn't a Final Four where it was a bunch of blue bloods. It was three of the 4 teams was their first time ever being in the Final Four. And then you had UConn, who ended up winning the championship, but all of those teams played inside out. All of them. They weren't just jacking up threes. And it was fun. It was a joy to watch. So, yes, sir. It was a joy to watch. But yes, I think we're going to beat Memphis. Because I've been in full basketball mode ever since football ended. So I'm being the sports guy. So, yeah. Yeah. But I understand your frustration, though. Now, see, I wanted to be greedy. I wanted to see, this is what the way I wanted the West to shape out. I wanted to see the Clippers get the 6th seed instead of the 5th seed because I wanted to see Phoenix and Golden State off the bat. And I believe the Clippers would beat the Kings, and I think the Lakers are going to beat the Grizzlies. So I was trying to wiggle my way to a Lakers-Clippers second round series, but that's not going to happen. That's the way I wanted it to shape out. But the last day of the season, with everybody winning, with the Clippers winning, the Lakers winning, the Warriors winning, the standings didn't move. They stayed the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to do an exclusive Sports Plus Life talking-ish with my man Tony. We haven't talked a lot of NBA this season. As you hear his frustrations, you see why. Mostly when we've talked NBA, it's been mostly Chicago Bull talk, and the Bulls are in the play-in. Those Eastern Conference play-in, that seeds 8, 9, and 10 could be a toss-up. Again, I'll say it again. I think the 10th seed is unnecessary. I think the 7th seed playing the play-in game is unnecessary. But it is what it is. And it's time for those games to begin.
Yawn, sir. Yawn. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, on the 17th hole,
I'd have to
limping to this bag.
Look, I will have given up all hope when I start paying extensive attention to golf.
Yo, you didn't see that, though?
No, I did not.
That was a sad. I saw it.
What you talking about, Tiger Woods?
Tiger Woods.
Oh yeah, no, I did see that. Yeah, Tiger's body is just falling apart. Yeah, he struggled to make the cut and then couldn't go. That's what it's been with Tiger for the last 2-3 years. It's been if he either makes the cut, whether he makes the cut or misses the cut, he can't physically continue the rest of said tournament.
And you see you see his face. He just looked broke. He looked, he looked like he had aged 1,000 years, but he just looked broke. Like
everybody had so much hope when he won the Masters in 2019. Everybody had so much hope that he was going to get back to that, kind of play. And I say every great champion has one great fight left. That was Tiger Woods' last great fight. I think his body is broken down. And I don't keep up with golf. The only player I keep up with in golf is Tiger.
It's kind of scary when you say that and you're thinking golf and talking about his body breaking down. And when you think golf, you just think of putt-putt. His body breaking down where he's no longer the athlete he was before. Dude's just walking around hitting the ball. But it's not that simple. It really isn't that simple.
See, Tiger did Marine-style training, though.
Right.
He pushed himself to a whole nother level. Like, he trained himself to go to combat, not to play golf. And now everything just, I don't know, just...
But if you really think about it, the physical mechanics necessary, what's the difference between a golfer and a pitcher?
Well, that's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, they're not running around. It's not like they're NBA players or football players and got to take punishment, but just the strain on their arms and their upper body throwing that ball versus a golfer swinging the club is the torque is probably the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I ain't that down on the NBA where I'm gonna be an avid golf fan. The only thing that's fascinated me about golf in the last year is the money that those dudes were getting in the LIV tournament, the Saudi Arabia money, and the PGA having a fit over it when the PGA treats their golfers like trash. And they're mad when these guys are taking hundreds of millions of dollars to play in this LIV tournament. What's going to happen with golf eventually, maybe sooner than later, is they're going to have to merge. LIV and PGA are going to have to merge because LIV has deeper pockets than the PGA does.
Right.
That's the only thing I know about golf. LIV, I mean, that Saudi Arabia money is deep. And then I'm not mad at the golfers for, if they're offering, I ain't mad. They offered Tiger Woods $1 billion.
Yeah.
And he said no. And which was probably the right thing to do, because if you can't make it through one simple tournament, you probably physically can't do it. But he's still golf's biggest star, and they offered him $1 billion last year. So,
yeah, well.
I don't know. Maybe I should get my son to play golf. I don't know. You can't get CTE, but you can make a lot of money if you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
But anyway, this will conclude our Sports Plus Life Talking Ish NBA Playoff Edition. The play-in games start tonight. You guys will hear my voice again next week. Tony, I'm gonna stay on the phone. I'm just gonna end this podcast. But y'all definitely don't forget to hit that subscription button and become part of the Sports Plus Life family. We out this bit. Peace.